Now with the CSS, we need something like what we are going to be using. We don't need a specific application. We only need some simple applications like text editors. Hope in HTML, we've been using certain text editors to write our codes for the pages. Even here, we use text editors. For my case, I'm using Sublime Text. As I'm waiting for Sublime Text to load, yeah, this is my Sublime Text. Then there are different ways how we can integrate CSS into our HTML pages. One, we have what we call inline. Inline is where we use it directly in the HTML codes, just as below. Let me come up here with a simple HTML page. I'm saving it as a Zoom class. Zoom class.html. Then for my case, I'm putting it on the desktop. Yeah, I guess right now, every one of us is conversant with at least coming up with the structure of an HTML page. Above on the screen, that is my simple structure of the HTML page. I'm putting in one element, a paragraph element, just for demonstration. Before using CSS, this is how our page will look. Yeah, that is how our page will look. That's before using CSS. And then as I said before, we have 3 ways of integrating CSS into our HTML pages or HTML code. One, I'm first going to demonstrate the inline method first. The inline method, I said, we put the codes of CSS into the codes of, or together with the codes of our HTML page. So like for this case, we put it in the first tag, in the opening tag. Like here, you just say style. Then you write the property. Let's say like color. And you give it a value. Let's say we want this text to be blue. Then when I save, then go back and refresh this. I think you can check. Our text will turn to blue. That is the inline part, or the inline method of using of styling the pages. We incorporate, or we put the CSS code together with the HTML codes, just as I have done it here. Mr. Steven, did we handle a menu?
No, we did not handle menus.
We didn't handle a menu?
No, although we did links, but we did not do menus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, this I've talked about it. Text editor, we need a text editor and we have it. Then we should be having some knowledge about HTML, which we have already. Then for us to use for us to use the CSS into the HTML code, we use what we call selectors. The selector points to the HTML element you want to style. We are going to see this as we are working on our HTML, how we can use the selectors and the different selectors, how we create the selectors. Then the selectors are of three types. We have the CSS element selector. You use the element itself. Then the CSS ID selector, you give a selector an ID, as we shall be seeing. Then we have the CSS class selector. You give the element a class, as we are going to see. Then the syntax, the syntax of applying this, we have the selector like H1. Here we are using the element. Then the declaration, just as I did in this. Here our selector is like P. Then the declaration style equals this. Color is the property. Then blue is the value of that property. Hello. Is someone saying something?
No, I muted them. It was by mistake.
Okay. So I was saying the syntax, we have the selector, then the declaration, just as I've done the other side for demonstration. The color is the property, then blue is the value of that property. Then if you want to style the font size, you give it, the property is the font size, then the value is, for this, it is 12 px. These are pixels. You can use the value of font, the value of properties with the numerical values. You can use pixels, you can use millimeters, you can use centimeters, so long as you understand how and the size you want. For this case, for me, I use the pixels. Then another way of using, another method of integrating our CSS codes into the HTML page or the HTML codes, we write it in the head. Let me put here another element, like another paragraph. And the second method is called the internal CSS. This one I've demonstrated where I've written the CS codes into or in line with the HTML codes. We call it inline. Then the next one is internal CSS. For internal, we go and write the style tag. We insert the style tag in the head. We put this style tag in the head. There, like that. Then we put our CSS codes into this style tag. But for this method is where we are going to use the selectors, like the ID, then the class. For example, here we have two paragraphs. If I use the element like P up here, everything is going to be, everything will affect everything we put up there to style up. Let's say we want to style only the first paragraph. It will also affect the second paragraph because we have not separated them. This is where the ID and the class selectors come in from. Like assuming I want to only style the second paragraph, I can say, I can give it a class. Class, then give it any name. Let's say para. With the names of classes, there are no specific names. You give a name a name that can suit with your paragraph or that are easy according to you to remember, such that if there is anything with that particular element, you can easily trace it just with the class name and you change it the other side, like here. So here we are going to use the class, our class called the para. So I will begin with you begin with a dot followed by the class name of that element you want to style. Just like here, I'm styling this second paragraph, and we have given it a name, para. So up here in our style, when we are styling, we call the class, then you give it, you open those brackets, and all our properties for the second paragraph will be put in those brackets. Just like I'm giving it a property color and its value red. Let me first save and we see how it will work. Hope you can check. It is only and only this second paragraph that has been affected. That is what we call the internal CSS. Internal CSS, we put our codes in a style tag, which we put in the header. Then with the inline, we put our codes together with the elements. I hope at least we have got an idea of how to integrate or how to include or how to use the CSS codes into our HTML for the two methods, the internal and the inline method. Mr. Steven. Hello.
Steven is attending to a client, but I'm co-host now.
Okay. Hope we have taken something.
Yeah, sure.
Pardon?
Sure, we have.
Okay, then that is good. Then if we just use the element like P, if we just use the element like P, then style this, maybe font size. Font size, let me give it 20 px. And save. Then if we run our page, you find that for the font size, let me first take out this. I don't know whether we have got the difference here. The essence of the class. Here, I've tried to bring out the essence of the class. If you use the class, you can assign each element a class name. And if you want to use the element itself, then assuming we have 100 paragraphs, all the properties here will affect, all those 100 paragraphs. And let me also include another element here.
Buinza, your hand is up. Do you want to say something?
Someone saying something?
I see Mbwire's hand is up. Did you want to say something as you're typing in the next paragraph?
Pardon?
Yeah, Mr. Stewart, I've got some question anyway.
Mbwire, what I say?
Question. Am I clear?
Mbwire, you can use the chat. Your voice, the network is not so good.
Okay.
Mbwire, you use the chat. We shall attend to you.
I'm just creating something like a menu for us. Hello, Mr. Mchunguzi. Sorry, I've not been going through the chats, but now
So I'll be going through the chats and I will be updating you.
Okay.
You can continue uninterrupted.
Okay, sir. I'm creating a simple menu with these links. Before our menu is styled up, hope you can see how it looks like. Before it is styled up, that is how it looks like. Then I'm going to let me put it in a div. I'm calling all this, I'm giving it a class and I'm calling it menu, just for easy identification. I'm going to be using the class menu to style these links. So up here in the style tag, I will call dot menu, then open paragraphs. I will give the menu like a background color. Background. Let me give it black. So our menu will look like that after giving it a background of black. Then let's give it another property like the color of the text. the color of the text. I think we give it white. Wait. Yeah, sometimes as you're working, when you try to execute, sometimes it may take long to respond, just as my white is trying. Then sometimes also it depends on the browser you're using. Let me try to open this using Google Chrome.
As you're trying to open, Mr. Hassn.
Yes, sir.
There are some questions which I think I can read to you from the chat.
Okay.
Mbwire's network put him off. He says, like when you're using the inside styling using CSS, just like what you have done.
Yeah.
Then where should you put the meta tag for responsiveness of the site?
Where should I do what?
Where should you put the meta tag for
Meta.
responsiveness of the site? Yes, that's a question he asks.
The beta tag.
Meta, M-E-T-A.
Meta tag.
That's what he asks, yeah.
Okay. Meta tag is always put in the meta tag is always put in the head section, isn't it? In the HTML, I think meta tag is just
meta tag is for HTML, yeah.
Yeah, it is for HTML, which will be holding, if it is supposed to hold information about the page, isn't it?
Yeah. Then there is another question from Mile. Why are you using div, yet for the class you didn't use it?
Why am I using div?
Yet for the para class you did not use it.
Okay, in HTML, we have the div element. A div element is just, it creates a section. It creates a section on a web page. In simple terms, web pages are created using these divs or division sections to create those sections on a web page. They use div. So here, instead, I've used the div. The div is covering all this. Instead of bringing or using one element in the div, I give a class name to the div such that whatever I would be styling using the div class name, every element in that div will be affected. That is why I'm using, I've given this div a class menu, and it is this class name I'm using here. I hope that one of the div, I don't know whether is answered right.
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay.
Hand over the other questions that are in the chat. Members, when you have a question, let it come through the chat, then we handle it at once.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Mr. Host.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, you're
Get
yes.
me one element that we looked at during HTML, such that I use that element here.
You want to, I think you can use plain text just for today to make it simple, other than going
what?
elements. Use plain text other than making it having very many elements for today. Introduction.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
So let me only use these. Maybe for the next, for the third method of integrating CSS, which is external, we shall have it tomorrow. Today, let us focus only on these two. The internal, where we put a style tag in the head, and we use either the element, the class of the element, or the ID of the element to style it. Just like for the paragraph, let me give also this paragraph. Like paragraph 1, let me give it a class. I call it para 1. Then up here, for me to style that paragraph, which is para 1, I will begin with the dot, followed by the class, then open the bracket and close it. Then between this bracket is where we are putting our properties. Like for paragraph 1, we are giving it a color, let's say yellow. Then a font size, of around 45 px, 45 px, then maybe a font type. For font type, the property is the font family. Font family. We can call it, we can give it times area. Then when we load our page here, you'll find that the first paragraph has changed to this color and the size. We have two paragraphs here. The first paragraph, we've given it a class para1, and the properties for it, we have color, which is yellow, font size, which is 45 px, then font family, which is Arial. We should do, as we are making some research on our own for styling our pages, you get the properties and the property and its various values. Then the different properties of different elements or of how to style up a page and its different values. Just like color, you know that color, it has these values. Then let me also use the ID. Let me add another paragraph here. So our paragraph will look like this. Now this one, I'm giving it an ID. Like ID. Then I call it para. Okay, para 2 for the ID. When we are using the ID and the class, for the class, for you to call it up here, the class begins with the dot. You begin with the dot, then the class name, then the brackets, and our properties are written within that bracket. Then for the ID, we begin with a hash. That is the difference, because someone may ask, you name the ID and the class. What is the difference? And the difference is how we use them. Like for this, for the ID, you begin with the hash. Just like for the third paragraph here, we begin with the hash. then followed by the ID name, then the brackets, and we write our properties for that element in that bracket. For color, let's give it like green. That is green. Then maybe size, we can give it size, we can give it 35 px. Then save. So when we run this, font size. So it will look like this. Blue. Green was not coming out very well to my side. It looked like black. That's why I've changed it to blue, such that we can see the impact the code has caused. Maybe as time has gone and we suggested should be strictly 1 hour, let me have a link up of our lesson for today. For today, we've had an introduction to CSS, where I said CSS is cascading style sheets. It is used for styling up the pages or to modify the pages, the elements like color, positioning, size, things of that kind that HTML cannot do, just as we've done. Then the second thing we have learned today is how to integrate or how to use the CSS in our HTML codes. And I said we have 3 ways. One is the we have the internal method where you the internal method is this one, where you write the style tag in the head, then you use the different, you can use the element name, the class, or the ID, as we have used them up here. Then the second one is inline. With inline, you write the code. I had deleted it. Let me write it here very fast with another paragraph. With inline, you put the CSS code in the first tag. You put the CSS code in the first tag of an element. We are aware in our HTML, we had, or they told us that an element begins with a tag, then a closing tag. Though there are some elements that do not have or that do not require the closing tags, which only has one tag. Like when you're breaking a line, it may not require the closing tag. So here for inline, you write the word style and it will come. For those of you using Notepad, the disadvantage it has that it will not bring some of these words direct. So you have to type everything. The advantage with some other text editors, just like Sublime Text, for it helps you to bring out those words. Like style, you just write style, then the word will come and you press enter. And it will make it a bit easier and faster when coding. For style, you write the word style, it brings and the quotes. Then our properties are written in the quotes, like color, color, this one, let's give it gray. Let's use green, yellow. You leave a space, comma, font size. Font size, let's give it like 70 px. Then you save. Here I'm demonstrating the inline. You check. Then the third method, which is external, I said we are going to handle it tomorrow.
That is it, Hassn. I think we can just take on briefly. I see some two issues in the chat, and then we can end the meeting for today.
Okay, sir.
In the chat, someone says, okay, there was an issue with Notepad. I hope you have ably talked about Notepad, because someone says, this is Segrinya Steven, can I use internal way with Notepad? I have tried out with Notepad, but it has not worked. The page is blank in the browser, but inline worked. Then Luvega Buinza says, Steven, make sure your head section, you include the opening. You include the opening and the closing style tag where you style from. These are the two. I think we shall have the assignment, I think after lesson 2. Steve will work out the assignment so that everyone can try.
Maybe with the Segrinya, what I can say, Notepad can also work. The only challenge is you have to write the correct spellings of these, how can I call them? Of these, not system words. These already predefined words in the CSS, or what we can call keywords in CSS. You have to write the correct spelling in
what you can say, Hassn, simply
Notepad.
That Notepad will do you well if you're writing plain HTML.
Yeah.
If with the additions of CSS, the other editors will give you a suggestion which makes you than Notepad.
Yes, they're not bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Members,
Anything you have not handled in the
no,
queries?
we have ably answered all queries.
All
Members,
right.
let's give kudos to Hassn for being a good facilitator for today. Our our CSS lesson 1. There are 5 days of CSS, just like we had 5 days of HTML. So endeavor to attend. You can always catch up these lessons live on YouTube by following up the channel that they have shared in the group. That is Hassn School of Computing on YouTube. And you follow up for those who didn't do HTML and for also those who have missed these lessons. You can have a good night. Thank you, Hassn.
Thank you very much. I also want to applaud you guys who came up with this idea of ICT Teachers Association in Uganda. I personally have gained a lot in the ICT Association. Is it ICT Teachers Association in Uganda?
ICT Teachers Association of Uganda.
Yeah.
And the theme right now is each one teach one.
Yeah.
So
that is why I also took this advantage of sharing what I have, such that maybe I'm taking it like I'm trying to pay, though I cannot pay. Thank you very much. We can have a good night.
We can have a good
link
night.
Up tomorrow at the same time.
Isn't tomorrow for PHP?
Pardon?
Isn't tomorrow for PHP?
I think this week at this time is for CSS. Otherwise, we shall share everything in our groups such that we come to an agreement about that.